So Viz Media has been the publisher of One Piece manga and related books since 2003. Let's take a look back at everything they've released and the things they haven't.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and on today's video we're talking about Viz Media's English release of One Piece. Not just the manga, but also several of the spin-offs and other books they've done. There's going to be a comprehensive history, though it may not be a volume-by-volume breakdown of release dates, because that's 111 volumes and counting. So we're going to kind of go over what they've released and what formats and what's available, as well as talk about the stuff that they haven't released. This is kind of a nice pairing to my recent video on the One Piece DVD and Blu-ray releases for North America, and my upcoming video on the One Piece viewing guide. So if you don't want to miss out on videos like this, hit subscribe now, and while you're down there, hit the like button and the hype button if it's available to you. Appreciate both those things. Helps keep the channel rolling along. But yeah, we're going to go through everything. I think we should talk about the formats of the manga series itself before we talk about the spin-offs. And that way we can kind of get a broad overview look at how Viz has released the series in English. All right, let's talk about the most common format for the One Piece manga, which is the single volumes. This is pretty typical for a lot of manga series, that you get a single volume, which is roughly 200 pages. That's kind of the typical format. This one is 210, because Oda likes stuff in these. This is volume 1, so it's chapters 1 through 8, plus some bonus material, and that is essentially the standard format for a lot of manga, right? So One Piece has been doing this for a long time. Volume 1 was first released September 2nd, 2003 in English by Viz, and it's been reprinted many times since. This copy of mine comes from one of the box sets, and it's the 38th printing from June 2023. There has been more printing since. It is pretty easy to find these now. Because of the length of One Piece, they have currently released 111 single volumes, with volume 112 coming out July 7th, 2026. So if you're trying to track down the single volumes one at a time, you can totally do that, but it is going to be really, really hard. But luckily we have options we will talk about in relation to this. But this is the first format, and it's the one that's stuck around the longest. The other interesting part is that before the volumes, or around the same time as the volumes, they were also publishing chapters in the English Shonen Jump magazine, and I actually did a couple videos on those old English Shonen Jump magazines, so go check those out if you haven't, because that's a fun little trip down memory lane. But if you're looking for it now, this is kind of what a standard volume has. Each of these does have an intro from Eiichiro Oda, a little message from the author, and then it goes into the chapters, and so you can kind of see that basically it's how it works. Now, you don't get any color pages. It is just simply everything's in black and white, because sometimes there would be certain parts of chapters that would be in color in Japan, but that is not the case here. But, it's every chapter of the series itself. In between chapters, you'll get fun little things like how to draw a skull and crossbones, or you'll get, some extra details. And then as the series goes along, you start to have Q&A sessions with Oda where he'll answer postcards that have been sent to him. And so that's pretty fun as well. In the back of this, and specifically in the back of Volume 1, you get some like the making of One Piece, and it kind of shows you a little bit of Romance Dawn version 1 and 2, the two pilot mangas that preceded the series. And then after that, you get, here's like a little facts, and then it's just advertising things. It's kind of funny when you see One Piece Volume 1 and it's advertising Dragon Ball Super, because that didn't exist when this first was printed. But it's just, advertisements of other manga that Viz is pointing out. And then because of the nature of, Japanese language being reading right to left instead of left to right like we normally do in English, this is kind of like here, you're reading in the wrong direction, but it's kind of like a little tutorial as to how to read manga. And I think that's kind of nice, and I think it's good to have, especially with a series like One Piece, which could be a lot of people's first manga. So that's basically how this works. One of my favorite graphic design details is the fact the saga, for whatever saga you're in, is written above the One Piece logo. So it's the East Blue saga, and then it's right there where it's like East Blue Volume 1. And this has stayed consistent, because like here's Volume 12, which is part of the Baroque Works saga, and then it says, Baroque Works on the spine above the number. And I really, really like that. And they have kept this up the entire time, right? So Water 7, of course, this one is Thriller Bark. So whichever saga it's in, not just arc, but saga, they put the saga name above the number. And also, for a series that's been running this long, the only inconsistencies you're going to find if you've been collecting it the entire time is the Shonen Jump and Viz logos have changed over the years. Not on these copies, these are all from about the same printing. The Shonen Jump and Viz logos will change time to time, but they've kept the spine consistent, numbering, image, design-wise, and that is pretty incredible. So single volumes, that is definitely one option to have to collect the series. The next format is one I don't own any of. It is the Omnibus 3-in-1 editions. They have currently released 35 of these, and the idea is that you get 3 manga volumes per 1 Omnibus volume. So volume 1, of course, was volumes 1 to 3, and that was released December 1st, 2009, and they keep up pretty good. So currently we have 103 to 105 in volume 35 is the most recent. But volume 36 was 106 to 108 is coming out June 16, 2026. So they're only a few volumes behind the singles. These are done as a much cheaper format, and so the paper quality is not as good as the single volumes. The single volume paper quality is pretty sturdy, pretty thick. The paper quality on the 3-in-1s is a lot thinner. This keeps the price down, but you do lose quality. If that doesn't matter to you too much, they are a really affordable way to collect the One Piece manga. But for me, I want the single volumes, but specifically the single volumes in a secondary format. So my preferred format, the volume box sets. So Viz does box sets for popular manga series. One Piece is no different. This first box set originally released November 5th, 2013, and they have done 4 of these so far. I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through each of them, since I do own all the box sets. This is a really cool way to collect it if you are somebody that doesn't want to worry about shelf space, because the box sets stack nicely. So box set 1, you can see it's East Blue and Baroque Works Sagas, volumes 1 to 23 in one set. We got a nice shot of Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp. On the top, we've got the One Piece logo. The whole design of the box is like it's a treasure chest, which I think is cool. Got a shot of Luffy here with the East Blue logo. On the back, we got our first 5 straw hats with a crazy bird. And then on this side, we've got Luffy on the Going Merry with the Baroque Works logo. So you got that going on. I do love the handle. Makes it easy to carry because it is pretty heavy, but you know, the handle does make it a lot easier. Popping it open, 2 Velcro pops. Boom, look at that. All 23 volumes. This takes us all the way from the beginning of Romance Dawn to the end of Alabasta. These are all the same volumes as they are released singly, same contents and everything. Also up top, we can see there is an additional image underneath the flap with the pirates. So it's pretty awesome. Now, what's also cool about the box sets and why I did want to get these over doing single volumes is they do have bonuses. So let me get one of these volumes pulled out here so we can look at the bonuses, because, you know, they have all the way up to volume 23 here. And they are structured to make sure that they come to the end of arcs. So what we got here is we have a poster, and not only are posters cool, it's just a neat little bonus. We have a poster here. It's kind of a fun image of the main 5 straw hats, or the first 5 straw hats. On the Merry, you can see everybody's holding Zoro's swords. And then on the back here, a cool image of them and a bunch of treasure, like they're in a treasure room. So that's a cool bonus, but not really the thing that made me go, ooh, I really, really want this. It was actually this, which is the Romance Dawn one-shot manga. So this is a prototype or a pilot manga. I believe this is the version 1. The version 1 Romance Dawn is included here. And this has got like a little summary about it. And then it's got not only that first original pilot manga, but you also have a little bit of an interview with Oda in the back about it, which I think is really cool. And so you got a really neat bonus. It makes the collection feel more complete. I'm sure it was frustrating for people that were collecting the single volumes and like, oh, the box set's got this in it that's not available in other stuff. And I understand that frustration. I collect Western comics as well, and oh boy, double dipping is certainly a whole topic in and of itself. But these box sets are really cool, and if you're getting into collecting the One Piece manga and you want to go for a nice quality format like this, they're definitely worth it. The quality is definitely there. And the bonuses, I think, are pretty awesome. So that's box set 1. Like I said, they've actually released 3 more already. So box set 2 is Skypia and Water 7, volumes 24 to 46. A nice image of our Straw Hat Pirates parachuting, which is kind of appropriate for Skypia. We've got on the top here, we got Chopper for the first time on box set artwork. On this side here, we've got image of Luffy with the Water 7 logo. On the other side, a different image of Luffy with Zoro, Sanji, and Chopper with the Skypia logo blocked by Luffy's arm. And then across the back, we have a really cool Skypia era image, Robin making her debut on a box set. And you got birds, and you got flying stuff, and it looks awesome. And then, of course, along the top as well, when you pull the flap down, you got a nice image of Luffy doing a Gum Gum Gatling up there. Now, the only problem I have with this box set, and I don't know if this is just a my copy problem, you see this bulge happening? It doesn't seem cut correctly, because when this is flat up, the top part sits too high, and then it doesn't grab the Velcro. So I think it's like a little too long, or it wasn't quite cut properly, so it's just bulged out over time. Also, because I stack my box sets, it's probably not super helpful, but it does bulge out on this one. It's not a problem with any of the others, just this one. Anyways, so we got here, of course, volumes 24 to 46. Since Water 7 and Enos Lobby wraps up in 46 and then Thriller Bark starts, this one has the Thriller Bark tag, but the most of Thriller Bark is in the next one. They try to make these as clean as possible for the story breaks. And then, of course, we do have our bonus material. And the bonus material this time is themed around Strong World, which was movie 10. And Strong World was written by Oda, so it makes some sense to include stuff for Strong World. So you got a nice poster, which was art that Oda did. And then we got another nice piece of artwork here with the Straw Hats on it. And then here we have Strong World, and what's included here is the prologue chapter to the movie and to the series itself. This is chapter 0, Strong World, which not only sets up the movie, but also is a big setup for One Piece in general. It is a prequel, and then it's got some cool like little bonuses in the back. This is another thing that I say is really, really awesome to have, and it does make the box sets worth owning when they include things like that, because then it's something you can't get outside of them. So that is box set number 2. Box set 3 is Thriller Bark to New World with volumes 47 to 70. You can see we've got our 7 Straw Hat Pirates on the front here with Franky making his box set artwork debut. On this side, we got a nice shot of Luffy with the Thriller Bark logo. And then over here, one of my favorite side panels, which is everybody, including Brook, with the New World logo on it, which is really cool. And then, of course, along the back, we got another nice image, which has some of our crew. It's the goofier side of our crew plus Nami, which I think is fun. And then along the top, of course, we do have another piece of artwork underneath the flap, which is the continuation, and that is, of course, got Zoro, Sanji, Robin, and Franky to join the others. Bringing this down, there is all of our beautiful volumes, taking us 47 to 70. The interesting part about the New World saga is that it contains, Fishman Island into the Dressrosa saga. And so volume 70, I think, cuts us off around Punk Hazard. It cuts off around Punk Hazard before we go into Dressrosa. The interesting part is, like I said, they would do the saga titles here, but they did start using New World for everything post-time skip for a long time. Because you can kind of see they did, Thriller Bark, Saba Odi, Impel Down, Paramount War, but then New World just covers a bunch of stuff. All right, so for posters, we have this one, which on one side, you've got everybody just lounging around, having a good time. And then on the back side, everybody in a big old treasure room, looking fun and free. And then we've got this, a crossover volume. So we have the Dragon Ball and One Piece Cross Epoch and Taste of the Devil Fruit, the One Piece and Toriko. These are the manga one-shots themselves for these crossovers. There was anime crossovers with Dragon Ball and Toriko, which are not necessarily based on these. They're kind of all different at different points in time, but this has, Toriko and Dragon Ball crossovers. And it's one of the few English releases of Toriko anything. This is a really cool bonus. This is a cool bonus that makes this box set also worth it. It's not like essential stuff. Like, you can read One Piece without reading any of these bonuses, but I think the bonuses do make for a fun experience that gives you something you can't get otherwise and makes buying the premium box set feel worth it. And then box set 4, Dressrosa to Reverie, is volumes 71 to 90. It has a few less volumes than the previous ones because starting at the tail end of 90 into 91 is the Wano arc that is very long. and that goes into the next box set. So we got a nice shot from Dressrosa here of Luffy, Robin, Zoro, Franky, Usopp, and Law. And then along the top, of course, we have a little bit, you can see a little bit of Big Mom there, because on the back, we got a very nice Whole Cake Island era image of Luffy, Sanji, and Big Mom. Then on this side, we've got Luffy with the New World logo, and then on this side, Luffy with the New World logo. Because like I said, they really stuck to the New World branding. They didn't rebrand Dressrosa, but they did rebrand for Wano. So yeah, this is 71 to 90. Interestingly, this does have extra space. If you wanted to cram in an extra volume, you could. It does have a little bit more room. The others don't really have room to add another volume. This one totally does. But yes, this brings us all the way through the end of the Reverie and then into the Wano arc. And then, of course, we do have our bonuses. Now, our bonuses here, I don't think are as cool as the previous three. But first of all, we've got a Straw Hats at the Beach type image. They're having a fun little vacation there, which is cool. And then on the back, it's everybody and then everybody when they were kids, which is really sweet. I like that. So that's a cool bonus. And then the booklet is The Solitary Journey of Jinbei. Now, this is not new material because One Piece has several stories that are covered on the covers of chapters. And this is just The Solitary Journey of Jinbei, which is, a chapter cover story, kind of put sequentially. It's the only time they did this. I feel like there just wasn't anything else to put in. I mean, there technically is. We'll talk about it. But, like, I think, what Viz had available to them, this is what they decided to do. It's not a bad inclusion. I don't mind it too much. But it's not as exciting as, like, oh, it's the Strong World chapter, or, oh, it's a prototype chapter, or, ooh, it's the crossover. It's the chapter cover story that's already on the volumes, but it's still nice to have. And then the cool part is we are getting box set 5 in a few months, actually, from the time of recording. Box set 5 is going to cover Wano through Egghead, and that'll be 91 to 111. That comes out December 18th, 2026. Its bonus is going to be different, because its bonus is actually listed as being a One Piece card game playmat with manga artwork on it. So that'll be pretty cool, and that's kind of how I collect things. I'm not buying any single volumes, since I have the Shonen Jump subscription, so I just read my One Piece chapters weekly, and then I'll get the box sets when they come out. So the next one is coming pretty soon, which is pretty exciting. Let's talk about some side material that's not the main manga, because this is actually put out quite a bit. So first of all, let's talk about, we got the Wanted Eiichiro Oda Before One Piece collection. This is a collection of one-shot pilots that Oda did pitch to the Shonen Jump, and some of them went through and some of them didn't. We have Wanted, which is a cowboy story, Future Present from God, which is insane. Iki Yako, Monsters, which is actually now in the One Piece continuity. Stay tuned for my viewing guide for more on that. And then Romance Dawn version 2. So the version 1 Romance Dawn pilot is in the box set, but this is the version 2 that was a little bit closer to what One Piece would end up being, and this is what is included here. So if you have the box sets and you have this, then you have both pilot versions of Romance Dawn. But this is a bunch of one-shots that Oda worked on, and like I said, Monsters, technically part of One Piece canon. All right, so they've been publishing some of the light novels. One of the more famous ones is Ace's Story. This is Portgas D. Ace's story. My goodness. Which was, it's the backstory of him. It goes into more detail than what we got in the main series. So it picks up basically where it left off. And this is an actual, like, novel. There are illustrations, but it's very minimal. And it's nice to have these published into English. There's also some cool behind-the-scenes stuff and character sketches of some of the new characters in this series. So we've got that. And then we've got Volume 2, which is a lot longer. And goes into the story basically up to the point where we meet Ace. And the cool part, too, is Eiichiro Oda is still credited as creator, but these are written by Tatsuya Hamazaki. But Oda did have involvement and did get to speak with the writer. So it's canon-ish. I call it canon-ish. More on that in a future video. I also love how the two covers are a connecting image to show kind of the progress of things there. Now, in addition to this, they also published the manga adaptation, which is called Ace's Story, the Manga. And this was done by manga artist Boichi, and it has storyboards by Ryo Ishiyama. This is an adaptation of the novels, but it also features new scenes that aren't in the novels. So I always say that you should read both, because you'll get a fuller experience between the two. You also wonder, why is Mihawk and Zoro here and why is Nami and Caulifla here? Because this actually does contain some additional things, because there's these One Piece remix chapters in the back where Boichi redrew famous moments from the original One Piece series, like when they first encountered Mihawk. There's also these cool color foldouts in the front, which I will not show the backside of this one because it's a little spoilery. And then for Volume 2, once again, we have another cover here, where we've got one for the Nami versus Caulifla art, and then we've also got one with Luffy and Ace and Gold Roger and Whitebeard, so it's kind of the legacy of pirates. And then, of course, in the back, here's the redraw of Nami versus Caulifla from Water 7 in Boichi's art style, which is pretty cool. I think that makes for nice bonuses and makes these good additions to the collection. One Piece Shokugeki no Sanji is a comedy manga that is done by Yuto Sakuda, with art by Shun Saike, which is with a contribution from Yuki Morisaki, because it's essentially like, what if Sanji had a story done in the style of the Food Wars series? And Food Wars is a series about cooking, and that cooking's so good and dramatically that everybody can't believe how great it is. And this is basically doing little side stories with Sanji, take place throughout the One Piece timeline, and it's basically him and cooking. And there's a total of 6 chapters. There's also like a bonus chapter as well in the back here where he gets to cook. And this is a fun time. If you're wanting to read it, check my viewing guide for when to read it best. But if you enjoy Sanji, you're going to get the creators of Food Wars doing the Sanji take, and I think that's pretty awesome. All right, another light novel. We have One Piece Heroines. This is a 2-volume light novel. These are anthologies written by Jun Esaka and arts by Sayaka Suwa. They have cool fold-out posters, and you can see we've got the 4 women who are featured here, so Nami, Robin, Vivi, and Perona. And so basically each volume contains 4 short stories, each focused on a different woman, and then a bonus chapter. And these take place, again, throughout the timeline of One Piece. And the bonus chapter back here is kind of a neat little inclusion. These also have illustrations to tell you how the stories are progressing as well, which is really neat. And then Volume 2 is the same exact format. You can see we got a nice group shot of all the ladies there. And then on the back, we got the 4 standouts, which is Hancock, Tashigi, Reiju, and Uta, since those are the ones with the stories featured here, plus a bonus chapter with Nami and Robin. So these are really fun if you love these characters. This is getting an anime adaptation later, so we'll see how much of it they cover, but really cool to have. And then our most recent light novel we've gotten is Law's Story, which is, of course, Trafalgar Law, or Trafalgar Law, depending on how which dub you watch. But he's got Law's Story, and this picks up from where Law's backstory ended off in Dressrosa and takes him forward in time. There is a second one of these that has come out in Japan that we haven't gotten in English yet, so I'm hoping that will be the case. What's cool, we don't get new illustrations, but we get kind of existing artwork from the manga to kind of just give us framing as to what this is. Really, really enjoyed this. It adds a lot of detail. Shusei Sakagami worked with Oda on story and character details. So again, not technically canon, but definitely canon enough in my eyes. To go with the trend of themed cookbooks, there is a Pirate Recipes book, which is One Piece themed food cooking recipes. And then Viz has also brought over art books, like, for example, the Color Walks. Now, they did the Color Walks as they released them in Japan, but then they don't think they sold super well, and so they came back as the Color Walk Compendiums, which is, I think, 2 or 3 Color Walks put into one. So we got Color Walk Compendium. The first one is East Blue to Skypia, and these are giant, oversized art book hardcovers with fold-out posters and a bunch of beautiful color artwork. And they're called Color Walks because they walk you through the timeline of the series, and they go in order for the illustrations that Oda has done. And they are all in color, which is so cool to see. And they're really a good time if you love art books and you love One Piece. They are fun. So, of course, they did, East Blue to Skypia first. The next one is Water 7 through the Paramount War, which you can see Luffy's all inflated. I love how Luffy doesn't look like he's inflated here, but then you're like, oh yeah, he's eating a lot of food. And then the third one, which is currently the most recent, which is New World to Wano. Since we only have Egghead completed after Wano, I don't think it's gonna be a little while before we see a 4th one of these. because, you know, they need more artwork before they can fill out that level of page count. And then coming out in June of 2026 will be an art book for the first 2 seasons of the live-action One Piece, which is pretty cool to see. So with all that released, here's a good question. What have they not released? So obviously they still need to release more volumes of the main ongoing One Piece series, but that's just a whole cycle of when it gets printed in Japan, then when it's allowed to be printed internationally. So that's not worried about that. But what about the other novels and spinoffs? So for novels, Straw Hat Stories, Novel Odyssey, Law, Hour of Kikoku, and Zoro. I think that Law, Hour of Kikoku, and Zoro are probably going to come out. Zoro's just coming out right now in Japan, so it kind of makes sense they haven't done it yet. And we only just got the first Law novel, so it's going to take a little while. Novel translations do take a little bit longer than manga translations. For Straw Hat Stories, it's interesting they haven't gone back and done that because that came out like a long time ago. So we'll see. As for Novel Odyssey, which is a tie-in to the One Piece Odyssey video game, probably never seeing that in print in English officially. And it's a spinoff of a video game, which is not canon, so it's not a super big deal. In terms of other spin-off mangas, the special episode Luffy, which is a what-if telling of Marineford, we've not gotten that. I don't know if there's any rights issues there. Vivi's Adventure, which is a redraw of a couple chapters from the Alabasta saga, that's released digitally from Viz, but they don't have an in-print copy, far as I know. And then PS Fan Letter, which is a manga interlude to the Fan Letter TV special, also kind of unlikely we're going to see that. Now, in terms of comedy manga, One Piece Party, Chin Piece, One Piece School, we've not gotten any of those. That may be a rights thing. Shueisha may not want to license them outside Japan. It's comedy manga. Is that something that would sell if they made it? Not exactly sure. But I know people share One Piece School panels all the time, so maybe it's something that they might attempt in the future. And then also, both of the main Chopper Man mangas have not been released either. But all things considered, One Piece has a lot of print history, and they've covered a good majority of it. So I'm still thinking we're probably going to get those novels progressively over time. The other spin-off manga, I think, might have some licensing hang-ups, but we'll see what happens. One Piece has got a lot going on. It's not like they have a break where they can start inserting another separate side manga like One Piece School, because there's just so much as is to keep up with. So overall, Viz has been doing a pretty good job with releasing One Piece. They've got a lot of the spin-offs going, which is awesome to see. Plus, of course, they're keeping up with the main manga as quick as they can, since, you know, Viz is owned by Shueisha, and Shueisha owns Shonen Jump and One Piece. You know, it's always like they are at the behest of the rights holder, but it's all within the same company, and I think that's allowed a lot of doors to be open without any subcontracting or additional licensing. So I do think we're going to see more, because I think with the Law novel coming out, pretty short after the Heroines novel, which was a little bit after the Ace novel, they're definitely wanting to do the novel spin-offs, and I think that's awesome because I love reading those, as it just adds to the overall world of One Piece. So at the end of the day, that is the guide to what has been released in English through Viz Media on One Piece. Like I said, go check out the home video history for the DVD and Blu-ray stuff, and also stay tuned. In a couple days from upload, there will be the One Piece viewing guide. It may be out already when you're watching this video, so stay tuned and hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out. If you haven't already, hit the like button, please. It helps the videos, helps the channel, helps all this continue. Also, if you want to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. And if you'd like to get perks like early access to videos and member-exclusive shoutouts, you can join as a channel member. Let's give some special shoutouts to our channel members. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including these Captain Tier members: Spin-54, Forever1000, Master Ben95, Super Shaddix Boom, Veloquence, Rogue Leader 2448, Mr. Smelly Potato, Alt Mode Archive, Alice James, Taran Thomas, Fernando Pereira, Common Jojo, Mike Hazel, Platinum Angel, and Zabimaru 202. Bonus shout out to Simple OS for joining at Commander Tier. Thank you all for supporting this channel, viewers and channel members alike. If you so wish, you can find me on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. You can find Hero Club at HeroClub.com for anime interviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, see you in the next adventure.